Let me tell you about Tanya. Tanya, well, you all know Tanya. You have Tanyas in your church. It's a high-level volunteer, a leader, someone who is passionate about serving, and something happens, whether it's something on Tanya's side or something with the organization. There's no reason to put blame on this, but Tanya disconnects from your church. And we've seen Tanyas in our ministry where they disconnect from what's happening within the ministry of the physical church. And what happens is Tanyas get disconnected. They start to move away from the organizational church. But what's interesting is a lot of times they don't move away from God. And what's happening in one specific instance where Tanya saw an ad for a digital church on Facebook, an ad that was talking about finding community. And Tanya connected with this ad and connected with this digital church called Hearts Like His. Fast forward 6 months, a year later, Tanya is now actively leading a Bible study that's involving people in multiple states. And at the same time is starting a house church through this digital church called Hearts Like His. A house church that's helping her neighbor reach their family. And what's interesting is we now have an opportunity to look at the world, the church, differently.
Leighton was told a couple decades ago that he did not have what it takes to plant a church, that he would be better to go on staff and serve his local community. And so he did faithfully and let that dream die. Until one day, as he's still missional and experimental, hears about this platform called Twitch and decides he's gonna start practicing his sermons beforehand on the Twitch channel. Little did he know he was going to have impact beyond his wildest dreams. He started having pastors that were suffering that would come and talk to him. They had closeted Jesus-following influencers on the space come and talk to him. And people who had never stepped foot in a church would come and talk to him. He ended up coming to a cohort facilitated by us at DCN. And now he is living the dream that died 2 decades ago. He is beginning to plant a church.
You see, whenever we get into innovation, and we know this, the questions are going to arise. And as we're wrestling with the idea of what a digital church looks like, with Chesley and I, the opportunity came up to ask the question, who's going to support this? If we're really seeing the Holy Spirit move in digital space, well, who's going to help people understand? Who's going to guide people along the way? For Chesley and I, we look at the ability to create community for these innovators, to give them almost permission on a regular basis to do the innovation. For many of them, their churches, their sending organizations, even their spouses and friends don't really understand what they're trying to do because it's never been seen before. So we need to provide the community, we need to provide the care, the coaching, the guidance to help them create these new models of church. As I said, my name is Jeff.
I'm Chesley.
And for us, we are very passionate about this idea of a digital church network. We co-founded this a while ago, earlier this year. And our heart is to help churches, denominations, organizations, corporations, whatever other Asian is out there, but start to understand the idea of digital church. Now, somebody out there is saying right now, and I totally respect this, Jeff, social media is horrible, the internet is toxic, all this is isolationist, and broadcasting church services online is the death of the physical church building. You're not wrong. All of those things are true. The challenge is that it does not have to be that way. When we talk about a digital expression of church, we're talking about doing church, being the church in these digital spaces, in these communities. And it is not a conflict with the physical building. In fact, what we're finding is that these digital churches are reaching atheists, agnostics, Satanists, neo-pagans, de-churched people, people that have not set foot in a church building in a decade are reconnecting with church in digital space.
Yeah, so in February, we decided to launch the Digital Church Network. It's an online community that serves innovative leaders in the church. We provide coaching, care, and community for them. And we also are communicating our learnings and our findings with church leaders at large.
So we've got 600 digital church leaders right now in an online community where we are providing this care and this coaching. We've covering 12 countries, just even in the context of this year. 11 networks where digital churches and digital church pastors, planters, practitioners are gathered together, praying for one another, holding each other accountable, encouraging one another on the journey. We've planted 5 churches in this short time. We've got another 5 churches that we're actually onboarding and hopefully launching by the end of the year. And essentially, if you were really to do the math, and maybe it gets a little squirrely, there are thousands of churches literally around the planet that we have been resourcing or coaching at some aspect.
Yeah, we're also partnering with Start Church to be able to help churches stay in compliance with the IRS. Digital-only churches are actually a lot harder to get off the ground compliance-wise than physical church buildings because it's so new. And we're also helping them with alternative funding methods so that they can stay sustainable in the long run.
So let's talk about the the metaverse. Let's talk about the metaverse. Virtual reality. Listen, the church has no idea what they're doing with this yet. We've got pioneers like Jason Poling that was mentioned earlier that are out there on that edge. How can we resource them, and how can we celebrate them, and how can we tell the early adopters the story of the innovators and encourage them to take those next steps? We're wrestling into soulcare. We're wrestling into mental health. What are the mental health implications of utilizing metaverse, of utilizing virtual reality, of utilizing digital ministry?
Yeah, so what we want to do over the next year is to become the leading voice of digital ministry for the church at large. And on the way, help plant more and more churches and care for over 1,500 leaders by the end of 2023.
All of this, and we want you to ask the question, what part should you play? Where do you fit in this journey as we're wrestling with making a digital church a viable method of ministry for the future?
Yeah, so we want you to come along the journey with us. Will you help expand the Great Commission to the metaverse, to Twitch, to Facebook, to all those places where people gather that we have yet to go? Let's go boldly where none of us have gone before.